What if everything you know about breaking bad habits is completely backwards? What if the very act of fighting against your habit is exactly what gives it power? Most people believe that breaking a habit requires force, strong willpower, fierce determination, a battle you win by being tougher than your weakness. The Japanese discovered something that changes all of that. They don't fight habits. They don't wage war against themselves. They use a completely different system, one that feels almost too gentle to work, until it works permanently. Today you'll discover that system through the story of one man who spent 20 years losing a war against himself, until an old monk showed him he had been fighting the wrong enemy all along. Subscribe to the channel and drop in the comments. What is the one habit you have tried to break more than 3 times and failed? I read every comment. Now let's begin. Chapter 1. The Man Who Couldn't Quit. This is Kenji. Kenji is 38 years old, a software developer, works from home long hours, the kind of job where the boundary between work and life dissolved years ago. Kenji has been smoking for 20 years, not for lack of trying to stop. He has tried everything. Nicotine patches. Worn one for 6 days before tearing it off in frustration. Therapy. 3 sessions, then canceled. Medication. The side effects scared him more than the cigarettes. He even tried hypnosis once, sitting in a dim office while a man with a calm voice told him he no longer wanted to smoke. He lit a cigarette in the car on the way home. Every attempt followed the same pattern: fierce beginning, brutal middle, quiet surrender. And then something worse than the habit itself, the belief that this was simply who he was. I am someone who smokes. I have always been someone who smokes. That belief is more addictive than nicotine because it removes the obligation to try again. Then Kenji traveled to Kyoto for a work conference. On his last evening, restless and smoking on a temple bridge, he met an old monk named Ryokan. Ryokan didn't tell Kenji to stop smoking. He didn't lecture him on health. He simply watched the smoke rise from Kenji's cigarette and said something that stopped Kenji completely. "You have been fighting this for 20 years. Tell me, has the fighting ever made you free?" Kenji had no answer. "Then perhaps," Ryokan said, "it is time to stop fighting." Chapter 2. The first teaching: observe, don't fight. The next morning, Ryokan told Kenji a story. There was once a young monk who struggled with anger. Every small irritation would build inside him until he exploded. He tried everything: long meditation, fasting, strict discipline. Nothing worked. The harder he fought his anger, the stronger it became. An elder monk finally told him, "Stop trying to destroy your anger. Instead, become curious about it. Watch it like a cloud moving across the sky. Notice when it arrives. Notice how it feels in your body, but do not judge it. Do not fight it. Simply observe." The young monk doubted this, but he tried. When anger rose, instead of suppressing it, he would quietly say to himself, "Anger is here." He would feel where it lived: the heat in his chest, the tension in his jaw. He would watch the thoughts that fed it, and then he would do nothing. Within weeks, the anger began to lose its power over him. By observing it without judgment, he had created space between himself and the emotion. He could feel anger without becoming an anger. Ryokan looked at Kenji. "Your habit is the same. You have been treating it as an enemy, but it was once a solution. The cigarette once gave you comfort under pressure, a moment of stillness in a chaotic day. It was never your enemy. It was your answer to a question you hadn't learned to answer any other way." This changed everything for Kenji. For the first time in 20 years, he stopped seeing the cigarette as something to defeat and started seeing it as something to understand. Chapter 3. The second teaching: surf the wave. Ryokan gave Kenji a practice that seemed almost absurd. When the urge to smoke arrived, Kenji was not to throw his cigarettes away, not to distract himself, not to fight the craving. He was to pick up a cigarette, hold it, smell it, and fully feel the craving. Then set a timer for 10 minutes and simply sit with the urge. Not fix it, not escape it. Sit with the way you would sit with a friend who was upset. Present, patient, not trying to make it go away. Kenji tried this and discovered something that no patch or medication had ever shown him. The craving had a shape, It rose quickly, reaching its peak at around 3 minutes, almost unbearable. And then, if he didn't feed it, it began to fade. By minute 7, it had softened. By minute 10, it had almost completely passed. I am not my craving, Kenji realized for the first time. I am the one watching it. This is what the Japanese have understood for centuries. Nothing lasts forever, including the urge that feels permanent and overwhelming in the moment. A craving is not a wall, it is a wave. And waves, if you let them, break by themselves. You don't need willpower to defeat a wave, you need only the patience to let it pass. Chapter 4. The third teaching, 1%. When Kenji returned from Kyoto, he did not quit smoking immediately. Ryokan had been very clear about this. Do not try to change everything at once. The brain is not a light switch. It is a path through a forest. You cannot erase a path, you can only grow a new one step at a time. This is the principle of Kaizen. Continuous improvement through microscopic change. Instead of quitting cold, Kenji reduced his daily cigarettes by 1. Not 10, not 5. 1. This seemed embarrassingly small. It seemed like it couldn't possibly work. But this was exactly why it did work. When you make a dramatic change, your nervous system reads it as danger. It activates resistance. Overwhelming cravings, anxiety, the desperate need to return to the familiar. Your brain fights you because it interprets dramatic change as a threat to your survival. But 1 cigarette less, the brain doesn't even notice. There is no alarm, no resistance, no internal war. Week 1, 1 less. Week 2, 2 less. By month 3, Kenji was down to 3 cigarettes a day. Not through force, through a change so small his brain never had the chance to fight it. The old path through the forest was slowly growing over. The new path was becoming easier with every step he didn't take toward the old one. Chapter 5. The fourth teaching, find the real need. But Ryokan had left Kenji with one final question that kept returning. What is the cigarette actually giving you? Not the nicotine, the ritual. What need does it meet? Kenji sat with this for days, and the answer, when it arrived, surprised him. It wasn't the smoking he was addicted to, it was the pause. Every cigarette was a permission slip. Permission to say working, permission to stand outside and breathe, permission to exist outside of his screen for 5 minutes without guilt. The cigarette was never the problem. It was the only way Kenji knew how to give himself rest. Once he understood this, he stopped trying to remove the pause. He replaced the cigarette with the same pause, minus the smoke. Every hour he would step away from his desk, stand outside, breathe slowly for 5 minutes. No phone, no screen, just air and stillness. At first it felt pointless without the cigarette. Then it felt normal. Then it felt better. Because now the pause was clean. It left no guilt, no cough, no slow erosion of everything he wanted to protect. Within 4 months, Kenji had stopped smoking completely. Not because he defeated the habit, because he finally understood what it had been trying to tell him all along, and answered that need in a way that respected who he was becoming. Chapter 6, the transformation. A year later, a colleague at a work event mentioned he was trying to quit smoking. He had tried patches, apps, cold turkey. Nothing was working. Kenji listened to the whole story. Then he said something the colleague didn't expect. Stop trying to quit, start getting curious. The colleague frowned. What do you mean? The next time you want a cigarette, don't fight it. Pick it up, smell it, set a timer for 10 minutes and just watch what the craving does. That's it? That's the beginning. The rest follows from there. The colleague looked unconvinced, but something in Kenji's calm made him try it that evening. He called Kenji 2 weeks later. I don't understand what's happening. I haven't smoked in 9 days, and I'm not fighting it. Kenji smiled. He understood exactly what was happening. The man hadn't found more willpower. He had stopped needing it. Closing. Here's the complete system Ryokan taught. First, observe, don't fight. Your habit is not your enemy. It was once your answer to something real. Get curious about it. Watch it arrive without becoming it. Second, surf the wave. The next time a craving comes, don't escape it. Sit with it. Set 10 minutes. Watch it peak and fade. Discover for yourself that you are not the craving. You are the one watching it. Third, Change 1%. Do not try to quit everything at once. Remove one, just one. Let the new path grow quietly while the old one fades. Fourth, find the real need. Ask yourself honestly, what is this habit actually giving me? What need does it meet? Find that need, meet it better. You are not fighting yourself anymore. You are finally listening to yourself. And that, for most people, is where real change begins. Drop your habit in the comments, the one you've been fighting. Write it down because naming it is the first act of observation. The ancient inner fire was never about burning the old version of you down. It was about lighting the path to who you were always meant to become. See you in the next one.